When I was 27, my family started urging me to get married. I broke up with my boyfriend of 3 years and started going back to my hometown for blind dates. A friend asked me, "You like Luyan so much, can you really let him go?" I sneered. I'm not stupid. His kind of falling in love and having fun is fine. If I really want to marry him, I won't have to worry about it for the rest of my life. Suddenly, a gloomy and familiar voice came from the side. "Oh, is this why you dumped me?" 1. When I was dragging my luggage home, I bumped into a girl opening the door and walking out. A loose black sweater reveals her delicate collarbone, the bottom of her shirt disappears, and she wears a pair of YSL wine glasses and high heels. I recognized that this was the bassist of Lu Yan's band. He seemed to be named Lu Chung. She was a pretty girl in her early 20s. I subconsciously stopped behind the corridor door and did not go out. After a while, Lu Yan walked out from behind her in a pair of jeans, lazily leaning against the wall and lighting a cigarette. He had no clothes on his upper body, and the beautiful shark muscles on his flanks were still dripping with water. After a moment, he casually threw a Chanel handbag over. "拿着!" Lu Cheng's eyes lit up. He turned around, threw himself on Lu Yan, and screamed. I've liked this bag for a long time. Where did you get it?" "I really like it. Thank you, baby." Lu Cheng still wanted to complain, but Lu Yan was a little impatient and frowned slightly. "Okay, let's go now." The girl got off him, half angry, half coquettish. "You're so cruel. Just now you called me your treasure, and now you're going to drive me away." She was not annoyed, and happily carried her bag and blew a kiss to Lu Yan. 走啦，明天见. After she left, I walked out from behind the hallway door. Lu Yan didn't seem to expect that I would come back suddenly. He was stunned for a moment, but his expression immediately returned to his natural state. "Why didn't you tell me in advance when you came back?" I looked at him for a while. "It's too late. I'm afraid calling will affect your rest." The ambiguous red mark on Lu Yan's neck was still fresh, but he didn't feel guilty at all. He grabbed me and took me into the house. "I'm hungry. Let's get something to eat." He sat on the sofa and turned on the TV, as if nothing happened just now. Seeing that I hadn't moved for a long time, he frowned and said, 怎么了? Then he seemed to suddenly realize, and a lazy smile appeared between his eyebrows. 想我了? He stood up and came over to hug me from behind, his warm breath lingering ambiguously on my neck, and his hand slowly penetrated the hem of my clothes. 那就先吃你，再吃饭. He has been playing guitar all year round, and his fingertips are rough and calloused, causing stinging pain and itchiness when they brush against his skin. I closed my eyes and pulled away from him tiredly. I really like Lu Yan's body, and I mainly pursued him because of his good looks. But maybe it's because I just finished a long flight, or maybe it's because of that woman just now, but I just feel tired now and not in any mood at all. Lu Yan was rarely rejected by me, and his expression darkened after being taken aback. 怎么了? I looked down and saw a black mass on the carpet. It was a pair of stockings that had been torn into disarray. Lu Yan obviously also saw the stockings. He clicked his tongue, and his expression became a little ugly. The living room fell into an anxious silence. He took out a cigarette from the box and lit it. The mint beads made a crisp sound when they were bitten. Her rented house expired, and she had no place to live, so I took her in for one night. We have nothing. I looked at Lu Yan, and our meeting eyes were separated by white smoke, and we couldn't see each other's expressions clearly. But both of them knew in their hearts how lame this reason was. This is not the first time Lu Yan has cheated on someone. He is probably a born libertine. He was like this when I first met him. At that time, my best friend wanted to take me to see a well-known rock band perform. She said that the lead singer was too handsome, and it was difficult to get tickets. I have no interest in rock music, and have always had little interest in it. until Lu Yan came on stage. He lowered his head and strummed the guitar in his hand. The black hair on his forehead was not gelled, and his lazy hair brushed his white forehead, occasionally revealing his thin pink eyelids. He was the most ordinary person in the room, just wearing a simple black t-shirt and jeans, but he instantly became the focus of the crowd. That face is the most expensive luxury item. He opened his eyes, and the blurred light reflected in those amber-like pupils, with a faint smile. It was the first time I went to see a band perform. The best friend who took me there, and the girls in the audience were all screaming crazy, and the screams almost broke through the roof. His eyes swept across the noisy crowd. Our eyes met for an instant, and he quickly looked away again. The singing that night was beautiful, but I didn't hear anything clearly. Because at that moment, everything was silent, and I could only hear my own roaring heartbeat. After getting off the stage, countless girls rushed to the backstage to ask for their contact information, and I was among them. I have been single for 23 years, which is probably the bravest thing I have ever done. Lu Yan accepted all comers, and every girl who asked for WeChat ID that day scanned the QR code, including me. A year later, all the crazy bees and butterflies chasing him were defeated, but I was the only one who still persisted. I don't know whether it was out of sympathy or emotion or what. Lu Yan acquiesced in my relationship with him, and I became his girlfriend until now. But I know that in the past few years of being together, Lu Yan has never really liked me. In other words, he also likes me, likes my sensibleness, generosity, and never cares. I caught him cheating on me many times, but every time as long as he gave me a decent excuse, I would forgive him. He has said many times that I am not his type, and he is only with me because I am good to him. He also joked that he would dump me one day when he finds true love. The reason why our relationship has been able to maintain over the years is just because of my own humiliation. You promised me you wouldn't cheat on me again. I spoke in a low voice and looked at the broken Balenciaga monogrammed stockings on the ground. A trace of ridicule flashed in Lu Yan's eyes, without any intention of coaxing me. You believe it when I say it's just a joke? He raised the corner of his mouth and came closer to me, spraying the mint-scented smoke on my face, with a completely evil look on his face. 受不了啊！受不了！你可以分手啊！ He has said this to me countless times before. Every time it ends with me holding him and begging him not to leave. Over time, he also learned how to manipulate me. He knew that when he said these words, there was nothing I could do. I tilted my head and said, I'm tired. I'm going to rest first. Lu Yan held my wrist. His brows were very high, and his face was always expressionless, with a kind of compelling pressure. I broke away from his hand and entered the house. Not long after, there was a loud slamming of the door outside the house. Lu Yan left. He's angry, I know. After all, I have always coaxed and licked him between the two of us, and I have never given him such a slap in the face as I do now. I turned over and turned on my phone. In the family group, my mother sent a WeChat message of 8 woe. Mama's never urged you before, but you are 27 this year, so it's time to think about getting married. My mother's colleague's son is in good condition, and I like his appearance. Why don't you come back and meet him during this vacation? Then open the leaders WeChat. Xiaozhou, the branch is currently short of people. With your ability, being a deputy department manager is actually an underachievement. Are you interested in becoming a manager in the branch? It will definitely be difficult to develop business at the beginning. You can make the decision yourself. My mother asked me to go home for a blind date. The company has just opened a new branch in my hometown city. The time is right, the place is right, and the people are right. It seems that I really have no reason to stay here. I sighed. Actually, I really like Lu Yan. He is handsome enough, has a good figure, and we are a good match in bed. The most important thing is that he is a scumbag. Being with him is easy because I don't have to think about being responsible for him or thinking about our future. When I first started working, I was so tired that I felt dizzy and wanted to find someone to vet my stress. However, I was just average looking and had a lot of trouble with my appearance. I searched all over and couldn't find anyone I liked until I met Lu Yan. He spent the best years with me, physically relieving me of a lot of stress when I was working so hard on my career. And although his relationship between men and women is not clear, he is quite careful about it. Before I got together with him, I heard that the woman he was looking for must produce a medical certificate within 3 days. I have taken measures and am not afraid of getting sick. I'm afraid it will be difficult to find such a pleasant man in the future. There's nothing you can do about it. Falling in love is one thing, getting married and settling down is another. I like Lu Yan very much, but I also know clearly that he is not a good match. Now it's time for me to make a choice. 2. Lu Yan didn't come back all night. He didn't appear in front of me for the next few days, and he didn't answer any of the messages or calls I sent him. There will only be a red exclamation mark if you send it again. He blocked me with skillful cold violence. There have been times like this a few times in the past. Lu Yan is best at Cold War. Every time I have to coax him down for a long time before he gives me a good look. It's just that this time I was busy handing over work and had no time to coax him. I was buying a ticket back to my hometown in the evening when my phone suddenly rang. It was a call from Lu Yan's friend. It was very noisy on the other side of the phone. Men and women were laughing and joking. The sound of music made me feel noisy through the phone. 念姐，陆哥喝多了，你来接他一下吧。Lu Yan likes to go to bars very much. His family is rich, and the band is just his hobby. He does not make money from this. I asked him before why he didn't inherit the family business, and he sneered and said that his father's illegitimate children were going crazy for the money in the family, and he was not willing to fight for the meat and bones. Anyway, his grandfather's property and his mother's fortune will be left to him. He doesn't need money, so he can just do something he likes in this life. Lu Yan seemed to have no ambition at all, and we had nothing in common in this regard. Every time I told him about a project I won or a promotion in the company, he always showed no interest. He once said disdainfully what was the point of working so hard for the little money every month, which was not enough for him to drink at the bar one night. I know that we are not the same kind of people from the bottom of our hearts. Apart from physical compatibility, there is nothing in common between us. I don't care about his soul. I just like his body. He ignored my inner feelings, but he was used to my sensibleness. It's also good. No one will be sad when we are separated. I thought about it and said yes, put down the phone, and looked out the window. The city seems more brilliant at night than during the day. Thousands of lights and trains are busy, and all kinds of lights are intertwined, covering up the light of all the stars in the sky. I took a look at the ticket. It said 8 o'clock in the morning the day after tomorrow. I sighed. Actually, I don't want to break up so soon. Lu Yan and I are really compatible in bed. It's been quite stressful to change companies these days. I originally wanted to break up with him. I smacked my lips and felt a bit pity, but now that the opportunity had come, there was nothing I could do about it. When he arrived at the bar, Lu Yan was surrounded by a group of girls. There are all kinds of people, whether they are fat or thin, but the common feature is that they are all very beautiful. Even heavy makeup cannot hide the abundant collagen on their faces, and they look young at first glance. He couldn't blame girls for liking him. Lu Yan's family was rich. He was generous with money. He was handsome, and spending time with him seemed to be an advantage that added to his charm. I touched my face and remembered Lu Yan's words about disdain for me. You are already 27 years old. When it's time to have a facial, just do it and take good care of yourself, okay? No wonder he dislikes me. It turns out that he is surrounded by girls in their early 20s. I said nothing and stood outside the crowd, my eyes meeting Lu Yan's. But he didn't seem to see me and quickly looked away. Lu Cheng's face was flushed, her whole body pressed against him tightly. Her voice was sticky. 陆哥，再喝一杯呀。Lu Yan smiled. Under the light, The corners of his eyes were bulging. He was extremely beautiful, but there was no warmth at all. It's boring to drink so much. Why don't you feed me? How do you feed me? Luyan said nothing, just lowered his eyes and looked at her. Half a second later, Lu Chung understood. A hint of surprise flashed in her eyes, and she raised her head and drank the caramel-colored whiskey in one gulp. Then Luyan suddenly grabbed her chin and kissed her hard. There was no tenderness in his kiss, and it seemed that he was completely venting his emotions. Lu Chung raised his head to bear it, and the corners of his eyes gradually became moist due to lack of oxygen. Wine overflowed from the corners of their lips, exuding a blur of color under the light. It wasn't until they separated for a long time that a long silver thread was pulled out. The atmosphere around him suddenly exploded, and everyone was screaming and hooting. I know he did it on purpose. He was punishing me. I was punished for scorning him that day, but I didn't coax him in time afterwards. It wasn't until I walked in front of Lu Yan that everyone saw me and gradually became quiet. Lu Yan raised his head with a pale expression. What are you doing here? Looking at this face, I vaguely remembered the days when our ears and temples were rubbing together. When the love was strong, we also said we loved each other. Feeling uncomfortable? It seems a little bit. But it doesn't seem to be how uncomfortable it is. After all, I have long known that Lu Yan is such a person. Playboy, never-ending pursuit of excitement, don't know how to refuse. Being selfish is probably because I have been praised by others since I was a child. I am always self-centered and do not consider the feelings of others. I said with a trembling voice, Lu Yan, you have gone too far. Lu Yan looked up at me. It was clear that he was sitting and I was standing, but I felt that his posture seemed to be looking down at me. He still had that indifferent expression, with a contemptuous smile. Too much? You can break up. No one is stopping you. I said nothing, just looked at him. I can't count how many times he has threatened to break up with me. 50 times? Or 100 times? A friend next to him also felt that he had gone too far. After all, everyone had noticed how I treated him over the years and whispered to him, Brother Lu, don't be angry with sister-in-law. Look, sister-in-law is about to cry. In fact, I did cry. Acting requires a complete performance. When those tears fell on the ground, I clearly saw Lu Yan's expression change, and his fingers holding the cigarette moved. However, he still didn't speak, and just looked at me coldly. The next second, I whispered, Hala! Lu Yan's expression turned extremely ugly in an instant. For a moment, I almost thought he was going to explode. However, he was not angry but smiling, but the smile looked like he was gritting his teeth. Awesome, Zhonyan, okay, but I never look back. When the time comes, just stop begging me like a fucking dog. Okay. I nodded and wiped the tears from my eyes. Then he turned and left without looking back at him. Lu Yan didn't come back that night, so I deleted Lu Yan's contact information and everything about him overnight and packed my luggage. Early the next morning, I got on the earliest flight back to my hometown. As the plane flew over the clouds, I pulled out the phone card and threw it into a garbage paper bag. 3. I stopped contacting Lu Yan and posted a few late-night emo texts on WeChat Moments. After creating a wounded character, I simply forgot about him. Life back home went as planned. I quickly adapted to the new company's business and met the man arranged by my parents. Opposite me, the 28-year-old programmer, who is already bald, is still chattering. I think women should focus on family after marriage. What I mean is that after marriage, you should stop working, don't be so career-minded, and take good care of the family. Behind every successful man, there should be a woman. He said blatantly, and I looked at the coffee cup in my hand with a smile, thinking that I must hold back and not put it on this dead pig's head. After finally waiting for him to finish speaking, he looked at me. Did you hear clearly what I just said? Do you have anything to add? I kept smiling. No, but Mr. Wong, I think we may not be a good match. Otherwise, we'd better not have any more contact. Then he turned around and left while he was mumbling something like, "A woman is no longer valuable after 25. What are you choosing, old woman?" After returning to my hometown for so many days, my mother has also introduced me to many people, and in fact, some of them have good conditions. However, there were times when things were difficult, and after dealing with a top guy like Liu Yan, I really couldn't accept this kind of ordinary guy. This mood lasted until the meeting at work. Everyone came early and gathered around the conference table in silence, and the atmosphere was serious. I quietly asked the vice president next to me, "What's going on?" "Something happened to the company." The vice president leaned into my ear and said, "The son of the old chairman has landed here. I heard that he is going to practice with our branch first, and then he will take over the entire group. I heard that this little Mr. Gu is from Harvard. After graduation, he worked at Goldman Sachs for a few years. Later, he started working in finance and made over $1 billion overnight. If the old chairman hadn't been bullying and inducement all these years, he wouldn't have come back. He's a real ruthless person. Be careful when talking to him." After a while, a young man in a black suit walked in. He was wearing a black wool coat. The moment he entered the office, the person behind him took his coat respectfully, and the sound of leather shoes stopped. I raised my head. Not only me, but everyone's eyes were captured on him for a moment. What struck me at first glance was the aura of this man. It was the aura of someone who had been in a position of power for a long time and was used to being in control. He clearly didn't have any domineering air, but everyone present, including me, felt like they couldn't help but lower their heads and didn't dare to look at him. Only at the second glance did he see his extremely clear eyes. His black hair was combed back with hairspray, revealing his handsome eyebrows. Naturally, I heard that the chairman's wife is a Frenchman. Her blonde hair, blue eyes, elegance, and Eastern aesthetics are perfectly combined in her body, with typical Western bones and Eastern skin. This man was very good-looking, on par with Liu Yan, but because of his aura, people couldn't notice his appearance at first glance. "Sorry, the plane is late. I'm late." He first admitted his mistake, then sat down at the top and said straight to the point, "My name is Gu Sheng, and I will be the general manager of the company from now on. I have already read the company's basic information and financial statements. Now, starting from the vice president, everyone will give me a basic report on the results of their work in the past year and the work they are currently handling." The people in charge trembled one by one and stood up to report. Mr. Xiao Gu was indeed an elite, as the rumors said, pointing out every point that tried to fool him. I don't like this kind of vague rhetoric, and I don't like being fooled. I hope to communicate well with everyone, but if my communication is ineffective, I will also consider other ways. He clearly didn't curse or hit anyone, but everyone broke out in a cold sweat behind their backs. Even the palms of my hands were slightly wet when I stood up. Fortunately, I was well prepared, and my work results in the previous year were quite excellent. The more I talked about it, the more eloquent I became. My academic qualifications and career are my pride and the most important things in life. I will never fool myself about them. Mr. Gu didn't interrupt me, and I saw a hint of appreciation in his eyes. After a moment, I stopped and signaled that I was done. He nodded. "Zhonyan, right? Not bad. Further reporting work will be based on this standard." Since Mr. Gu arrived, everyone has become busy at work. He eliminated many redundant matters and non-performing assets, and also negotiated many projects with excellent qualifications. Everyone works overtime longer and longer, but their wages are also raised along with it. Colleagues, especially young female colleagues, are very interested in Mr. Gu. There were 2 new little girls who didn't know they took the wrong medicine, but they actually acted like the domineering president in the novel Falling in Love with the Little White Flower. One openly argued with him in a meeting, and another spilled coffee on his 30,000-piece shirt and tried to wipe it with his hands. He was fired the day before. The second one was fired the same day. The female colleagues are all honest, but they still gather in the tea room to discuss his gossip during breaks. I heard that he hasn't had a girlfriend before, so he's probably still a virgin. How is that possible? You've watched too many TV shows. How many women are staring at a man in this condition? How can he still be a virgin? Let me sleep with him for the night. I'm willing to spend my year-end bonus for a year. It's so good. Did you see it when he was wearing trousers that day? My innocence is so good. I was listening and suddenly became interested. Without Lu Yan, this Gu Sheng seems to be a better choice. I want to try this man. 4. I started to appear in front of Gu Sheng regularly. He goes to work half an hour early every day, and I catch the same elevator as him 3 out of 5 days a week. At this time, there are usually only 2 of us in the elevator. I didn't say much. I just said hello, pressed the elevator button for him, and stood quietly aside. Then I can pick up a cup of coffee at noon every day. He usually comes to drink coffee at that time, and I will make sure not to run into him in the tea room every time and leave before he finishes taking the coffee, but so that he can see me. Occasionally, I would work overtime, and he would pass by my workstation when he got off work. In short, try to appear in front of him as much as possible, but never say a word to him more. Finally, when he saw me working overtime for the 17th time, he paused and walked towards me. I often see you working overtime recently. Have you encountered any problems? I looked up in surprise and hesitated for a moment before handing over the information in my hand. I recently took over a new project, but this company has some assets that I am not sure about the risks, so I can only do more research. Gu Sheng naturally sat at the workstation next to me. 给我看看. There was a light woody fragrance on him, which mixed with the light rose fragrance on me, creating an indescribable feeling of tipsiness. I think this project is feasible. If you look at his company's financial statements for 23 years, the financial situation is pretty good, and... He talked eloquently, and I nodded attentively. From time to time, I asked some very professional questions, and after he answered them one by one, I showed an expression of enlightenment. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Gu. I have never thought about it in this direction before. Your professional ability is already good, but you have less work experience. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Get off work early. He made a rare joke. Don't let people think that I'm some shady guy who forces employees to work overtime all day long. I nodded, put away the materials, and went downstairs with him. When I went out, the raindrops were carried by the wind and blew on me. I hesitated and took a step back. Gu Sheng was about to leave, but when he saw that I didn't move, he turned around and asked, 怎么了? I waved my hand. It's okay, Mr. Gu. Please go first. I remembered something else. He didn't ask any more questions, nodded, and left. 5 minutes later, his car drove out of the underground parking lot, and I was still standing in front of the company. Gu Sheng lowered the window. Did you not drive? I panicked and said, yeah, it's not easy to take a taxi when it rains. It's okay, Mr. Gu. I should be able to wait and see. He opened his mouth and I talked a lot with Gu Sheng along the way, and he was a little surprised to find that our interests were very similar. Even a niche movie that I liked, The Holy Mountain, was also his favorite. Gu Sheng's indifferent attitude at the beginning gradually became talkative, until he reached the door of my house. He didn't even hit the brakes and continued driving. I pursed my lips and was about to remind him, but he had already noticed. Sorry, I didn't look at the navigation just now. After the car stopped, I once again expressed my gratitude to him for taking me home. Gu Sheng just nodded, opened his lips slightly as if he wanted to say something, and then swallowed it. What's wrong, Mr. Gu? I looked at him. What's the perfume on you? It smells good. He seemed to feel a little regretful when he said it, but saying anything at this time would only make it more embarrassing, so he simply bowed his head and stopped talking. It's funny in my heart. Pan Halogen Fox. I'll see you tomorrow, Mr. Gu. 5. I stood behind the curtain and watched Gu Sheng leave, then picked up a notebook from the table on the side. In order to catch such an opportunity, I haven't driven to work for a long time. Fortunately, today's weather forecast was accurate enough that I really encountered such a rain. I opened the notebook, and it was filled with Gu Xing's preferences. There is very little information about him. I finally found the social media account he used when he was in school and carefully recorded every word. Only then did I know some of his preferences. Even the movie The Holy Mountain, I just watched it last night. There is no way, if a common girl like me wants to win such a top-notch man, she really has to pay a little more. I curled up my lips, sat on the bed, and was about to rest when my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number, but when the call was connected, it was a familiar voice. Lu Yan's tone was lukewarm. You left a lot of your stuff at home. Come and get it. I did leave some things behind when I left, but they were all things I didn't need because they took up space. I thought that according to Lu Yan's temperament, he would just throw it away, but I didn't expect that he would call me to inform me. As I spoke, I looked at Gu Sheng's guidebook, my tone a little perfunctory. Lu Yan on the other side of the phone was obviously unhappy. After a long silence, he hung up the phone. He has always been like this, moody and always needs to be coaxed, but now I have no obligation to coax him anymore. After blocking this number, I forgot about it. I already got along with Gu Sheng yesterday, so I can't use the same method today. I rarely got off work early, and went to a bar with my friends to have a few drinks. After 3 rounds of drinking, we both got a little drunk. My friend squinted his eyes and asked me, "You liked Lu Yan so much before, and now they break up suddenly. Can you really let go?" When I was with Lu Yan in the past, my friends always hated me and thought I was too much of a loser and was worthless. But I don't think it's a big deal. Since I care about Lu Yan's body, I have to pay something. Besides, it's up to me to decide whether to lick or not. So how can I be considered useless? I put down my glass. His kind of thing is just about falling in love. I'm not stupid. It's okay to just have fun when I'm young. If I really want to marry him, I won't have to worry about it for the rest of my life. The friend gave a thumbs up. Awesome. You're still at a high level. You are right to think so. Lu Yan let you play with him when he was at his best. It turns out that you are the one in the atmosphere. She suddenly stopped talking and looked behind me in horror. Did I drink too much and hallucinate? There was a faint laughter from behind, with a coolness, which instantly sobered me up from all the drunkenness. Oh, is this why you dumped me? I turned around stiffly. Lu Yan, wearing a silk white shirt, was leaning against the wall, looking at me coldly. My friend ran away, without mercy. Lu Yan dragged me to the deserted corridor and looked at me condescendingly. I seriously suspected that he was going to kill me the next second. Why are you here? I struck preemptively. Lu Yan lazily twitched his lips. Zhong Yan, if you don't have a mirror at home, you'll have to pee, right? I came to perform with the band, but if I hadn't happened to meet you, I wouldn't have known that I had let you play in vain these past few years. I was just joking with my friends. You know, you hurt me too deeply. I am also a person who cares about face. I turned my head away from Lu Yan, but he grabbed my chin and forcefully turned me back. Yes, I replied silently in my heart, and used force to free my chin that was pinched so painfully from his hands, and maintained calmness and said, Lu Yan, no matter what, I have done my best for you these past few years. You can tell me with your own conscience, how have I treated you? I have nothing to be sorry for you. On the contrary, you have been sorry for me. Even if I really play with you, it is not in vain. Doesn't my youth count as youth? Now that we've come this far, let's get together and part ways anyway, dash. I paused, unable to say the word love. It's better than ever. Lu Yan looked at me for a long time, and just when I thought he was going to be angry again, he suddenly smiled. Under the light, his features were as beautiful as before, but I was no longer moved. No matter how good-looking the person is, he has seen enough for more than 1,000 days and nights. Zhou Yan, you take yourself too seriously. Lu Yan raised his lips. Of course we have to get together and part ways easily. Do you think I will still pester you? Just remember, you didn't dump me. It was me, Lu Yan, who dumped you. With that, he turned and left as if there was something dirty behind him. I looked at his back and sighed silently. Lu Yan has indeed never been dumped in his life. He was probably very upset that I dumped him. But if thinking this way makes him feel better, that's okay with me. 6. I still kept working overtime as often as before, and Gu Sheng also left later and later every day. Occasionally, he would give me a ride. The weather in late autumn and early winter was dry and cold, and pedestrians were wrapped in coats in the light of the traffic. The cold made the distance between us seem farther away, and we couldn't help but want to be closer together. We would talk about the company's projects and what we had done recently. I would complain to him about the people in the cooperative company, and occasionally, he would echo me. Yes, I also think that person is really stupid. Then, everyone laughs together. As time passed, I could feel his affection for me growing little by little, so on the day of the first snow, I decided to take a strong dose of medicine. I asked him for leave, and when he asked me why, he hesitated and answered, "There's something going on at home." Logically speaking, one shouldn't ask further at this point, but Gu Sheng frowned. Did something happen to the family? Is there anything I can do to help? I smiled awkwardly. No, it was my mother who forced me to go home for a blind date. Gu Sheng was stunned. It's rare to see this kind of expression on his face, so I added, I'm 27 too, and my family has been pressing me hard. I've pushed back before, but I can't go this time. After a long time, Gu Sheng lowered his head. Okay, but you know that the company is quite busy recently, so I can only approve you. He pretended to look at his watch. 2 hours, I think, is enough for a blind date. Okay, now there's still 1 hour and 59 minutes. I didn't lie to Gu Sheng. I really wanted to go on a blind date. There has been little progress in the blind dates recently, and my mother is going crazy with anxiety. It is rare that this blind date is of good quality. He is a returnee from overseas, works in a large factory, is 180 centimeters tall, has a gentle manner, and speaks very respectfully to women, without any fatherly remarks. I was interested, so I couldn't help but chat a few more words. Halfway through, my date went to the toilet. I lowered my head and played with my phone. I felt someone sitting down in front of me. I was about to speak, but stopped. The person sitting in front of me was none other than Lu Yan. He was nearly 1.9 meters tall, and the sofa, which was perfect for a blind date, was a bit cramped for him to sit on. There was no place for his long legs, so he could only lean as far back on the sofa as possible. Lu Yan played with the Volkswagen keys left on the table by his blind date and sneered. You broke up with me just to come back and have a blind date with this guy? The smile faded from my face. Didn't you say you came here to perform with the band? Why haven't you left yet? The band's schedule has changed. Do you think I'm willing to stay in this quiet place? I said seriously, I hope you can respect my blind date. He is very nice. Please leave quickly and don't disturb my blind date. Lu Yan's face